questions are the answer to life. Now, I was just thinking about how my philosophy could be chalked up in so few words, how I could give anybody advice and it would all be the same. And how if, say, I was a life coach or something like that, how people would hate me because I would just tell them, what do you think you should do? Do that. And they'd be like, what am I paying you for? Why come to you? I could have done that for myself. But the answer is we can't. We don't ever ask ourselves, what should I do? We go ask other people. We go to the ancients, we go to philosophy. We go to YouTube, like you right now, potentially, clicking on this video to, get the questions, get the answers from the questions, or have, or just wondering what I mean by what I said. When in reality, it is inside of us. And it's the questions that we need to be asking. The bigger the questions, the bigger the life, whatever that means to you. We all need to trust the still small voice within. And everyone's goal is to live a life true to themselves. How does anybody know what that means to you? How does Socrates know what that means to you? Plato, Aristotle, so on and so forth. What makes these people so great isn't that they gave us answers. It's that they gave us questions. It's that they asked the big questions. And yes, maybe their philosophy consists of them trying to answer it, but it's them trying to answer it for themselves. It's them bringing to you what they believe is the right answer. But life isn't black and white. Whatever the answer was to Socrates may not be the answer to you. It could be, but you need to go find that out for yourself. Like in Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, he says, he tells his followers to, hate him, to not want anything to do with him, to think everything that he told them was a lie. And if somehow, some way, they come out, somehow, some way, they go through life and they come to the same conclusions that Zarathustra gave them, then great. They can enjoy life. They can enjoy believing in the same things together, but not because Zarathustra said it was that way so long ago, but because they came to the conclusions for themselves. Because inside each and every one of us, I believe we all have our own individual God. And it's the still small voice. It's our intuition. And questions are the answer to life. Because you ask these questions, and deep down inside, you know what the right answer is. Deep down inside, you know, this is what I should do. I love the simplicity of what Marcus Aurelius once said, just be a good man. The rest doesn't matter. Or, oh yeah, no, sorry. Well, he said, just do what is right. The rest doesn't matter. But then he also said, stop arguing about what a good man is. Be one. And you can sit there and say, what does he mean? What does he mean? Just do what is right. What does he mean? Be a good man. And that is a horrible way to read philosophy and to read a character of the quality of Marcus Aurelius. It's a disservice because he knew exactly what it meant. And it doesn't matter what it meant to Marcus Aurelius. It doesn't matter what being a good man meant to Marcus Aurelius. It matters what it means to you. Stop arguing what a good man is and be one. You know deep down inside what that looks like. So why are you so obsessed with what it looked like to Marcus Aurelius? It doesn't matter. As long as he was one. As long as, and even that doesn't matter. All that matters is that you ask yourself the question and you live up to it. You become a good man. You do what is right and trust the rest doesn't matter. I truly believe that the still small voice, our intuition, I believe these things are outside of space and time. We don't know where thoughts come from. So I don't think it's ridiculous to think that our soul, our still small voice, the thoughts are outside of space and time. We don't know where they come from. So why not? It's not like it's impossible that it comes from outside of space and time. And if that were the case, why would we not listen to the still small voice, our intuition that has a perspective, has outside of space and time, that has foresight of such a divine nature? It makes no sense not to listen, not to trust that. It would be absolutely absurd. But that's what we do. We don't trust ourselves. We don't try to walk a path true to ourselves. And we go to people and we just look for answers. That's kind of what how this whole thing started in my brain. I was thinking about, as I said, I think in the beginning of this video, how I wouldn't be a good life coach because I just tell people to do what they think they should do. And they would be mad about that. I lost my train of thought. Sometimes, I guess this is going to be a little off topic, but I think it'll bring me back. Sometimes when I'm digging into something so divine, so true, I feel like, sometimes you approach gray areas where like your brain doesn't even allow you to go further. It's like, this is too true. This is too wise. This is too good to be in the world. We can't allow it. Maybe I'm just a prideful, presumptuous fool. But yeah, I think it's like I said, people wouldn't like me because I said just just trust yourself, find the answers for yourself. And that's truly the way we walk a path true to ourselves. Because we all deep down know inside of us in our heart of hearts what it is we should do, when we should do it, why we should do it, how we should do it. And I know I'm going to contradict myself, but I think sometimes there is times where we're really like, I don't know what I should do. But I think in those times, those rare times, those 1%, 0.01% of the times, we know what we shouldn't do. And sometimes that's just as good as a guide. Sometimes it's just as good as a guide to know what you shouldn't do as what you should do. Because say you shouldn't go west, or say you shouldn't go north, south, or west. What's the difference between knowing you should go east and knowing you shouldn't go north, south, and west? There's no difference. And I think sometimes it can be clearer and it can be easier to understand where we shouldn't go compared to where we should go. And I've also been thinking about how sometimes it can be really good that we don't have a guide. Because when we have a guide and our still small voice contradicts it, and I mean a guide in the material human sense, Joe Schmo is my guide, my mentor, my person who shows me what to do, my life coach. Sometimes that can throw us off track. Maybe they have the life you think you want, but who are we to know the life that we truly want? We should want what we need, not what we want. And when you have a guide who you don't want to contradict, it's hard to trust the still small voice. It's hard to listen to your intuition. It's extremely hard because you say, I want to do this, but I also want to end up where this person is, and I need to do what he did to get where he is. So it's hard. It's hard to know what to do. But when you don't have a guide, then you can be your own guide. And we are, each and every one of us, our own best mentor. I'm pretty sure Carl Jung said that essentially, everyone's looking for a great mentor, but we don't understand that, we have a God within us. We have our own personalized mentor that has been crafted for us, that knows exactly what we need to do, that somehow knows exactly where we want to go and helps us get there. And like Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech at Stanford, trust your intuition. It somehow knows what you want. It somehow already knows what you want. And I think this is so true. And the only conclusion I've been able to come up with is that it's outside of space and time. That somehow our intuition, somehow the still small voice, somehow our thoughts are outside of space and time. It's the only explanation that I can have. And maybe that's why these people in hard situations seem to become so great. Not all of them, but the ones who don't take guides from the people in positions they don't want to be in. They're in a position and they say, I have no guides around me. I have nobody to listen to. I have no one to look at and say, oh, this is what I need to do. I guess I just won't do what they're doing and hope I end up on the right path. And somewhere along that line, these people start tuning into the still small voice. They start tuning into their intuition. They start trusting themselves. And these are the people who can truly become who they are, who can truly walk a path true to themselves, because they have nobody that they think they can look up to other than themselves. They have no one that they can turn to for advice other than themselves. So that's all they ever do, and they become who they're meant to be. Ah, that's what I was going to say earlier. I remembered. If you stuck with me, you're being rewarded. So I was thinking, like I said, yeah, people would want to get paid, so on and so forth, or they wouldn't want to pay me. And they'd be mad because everyone just wants answers. In life, we're all just like, in this day and age, we're just looking, I guess in every day and age. I always say in this day and age, but things never change. Human history doesn't repeat itself. Human nature repeats itself. But people would want the quick fix. That's why they go to people and they say, give me answers. Like, why? And that's why no one does the hard work. Because they don't want to be told you have to ask more questions. They don't want to be told that you have to sit in solitude and contemplation for hours. They don't want to be told that you need to go read, the greatest philosophers ever to live. Not so that you get answers, but so that you get more questions. Who does that excite? I mean, that excites me very much. But for these people who look for quick fixes, that doesn't excite them. That's like someone who's looking for abs in a week, or to lose 100 pounds in a week, and you tell them that, hey, it's gonna take months, maybe even a year of hard work, consistency, and the slower you do it, the better, because it's gonna stick, it's gonna last, you're gonna keep it. They don't want to hear that, and that's what these people don't want to hear. Nobody wants to hear that the answers to life is questions, because what kind of answer is that? But it's the truth. All great truths are paradoxical. And I'm sorry if you can hear this like jackhammer going on over here. Currently, that's the ocean. It's where I'm going surfing every day. And I only just mention this um, because, at least the jackhammer, because this video started off kind of bad because it's hard for me to think right now. But that's like the hard part about making videos while I'm traveling, because I'm at a hostel right now. That's like pretty sick. It's super sick. But I'm like in this like abandoned part where like nobody comes, just so I can try to make this video. And I got this jackhammer going on. It's making me lose my train of thought. But I just had this realization and I felt like I needed to bring it. I felt like it was so profound. The fact that the answers to life are questions. That's why philosophy is so amazing, because it's thought experiments, it's questions. And that's why the answers to life are there. You read any great philosopher, and you're not gonna get the answers to your life, but you'll get the questions that you need to ask to answer your life, to answer what you need to do, to walk the path you need to walk. And once you can understand that the still small voice, the God within, your intuition are the things you need to trust, who you need to do, what you need to do is already inside of you. That's the other thing. We look for questions outside of ourselves, or we look for answers outside of ourselves when the answers are within. Questions come from within too, but it's amazing to get questions from elsewhere. You know, you have thousands of years of people, some of the wisest people ever to live, who asked the wisest questions that they spent 80 years, give or take, you know, asking, thinking about. And they ask these questions and they put these questions forth to you. You don't need to sit in a monastery for 30 years not doing anything to come up with the same question that, Plato came up with 2,000 years ago that he put in a book. You can read. And that's why I always say reading is meant to inspire. You shouldn't look for answers in reading. That's just dogmatic. You shouldn't be an encyclopedia. You should be a person who reads for inspiration. You should be a person who reads because you realize that the questions that you'll ask yourself are going to be so fruitful. And the bigger the question, the bigger the life. And the more true you can be to yourself, the truer your path can be. Now, my videos are always all over the place, so pardon me, but I have a good moment here, rarely where I can make one, so. And in explaining myself, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, I shouldn't explain myself. But yeah, I hope you find this to be as fruitful to you as it is to me. To understand that questions are the answer to life. And that the still small voice is what we need to trust. It's how you walk a path true to yourself. There we go. That's what I was going to say. It always comes back. Walking a path true to, yeah, okay. So the person who, so sometimes I fear that I'll somehow end up in the same situation as these people. When I worked the job I didn't like, I really feared this because a lot of my coworkers would be, divorced, alcoholics. It's not people I wanted to be like. And I was always reminded of Einstein's quote where, it is insanity is when you do the same thing and expect a different result. And I was always like, man, like I'm in the same place as these people. Like, am I foolish for thinking I'm going to end up differently? And my gaze may have been different. And in many other paths in my life, I may have been walking a different path. But in this one path, I was so aligned. And I was like, with my line of work, 8 hours of my day, 5, 6 days a week. I mean, it's a lot of time. And I'm like, is this messing me up? And it scared me because of Einstein's definition of insanity. But now it doesn't. Well, now because I'm no longer walking that path, and I realized we truly do walk paths. We don't teleport through paths. You don't somehow just, I guess, contrary to popular belief, or maybe not popular belief, I don't know. But I don't think you just end up homeless. There's a line of decisions, there's a line of things that happen that make people homeless. And I mean, without being like that guy, I don't fault them. I give homeless people food. I try to help homeless people. I don't think they're lesser, or I don't think they're horrible. It just is what it is. But I do try to help them. But we don't. But when what I'm trying to say is that now that I'm walking this different path, I'm not afraid that one day I'm just going to look down and look around and be like, I'm in the middle of all of it. I'm a fool, because we don't teleport past. I'm not going to go from backpacking the world to, being, working a job I hated for 40 years, divorced, alcoholic. That's just not how it happens. That's just not how it happens. We walk past. And I'm explaining this poorly, but what I mean is that we don't completely fall apart in a day. If you end up in a place you don't like, it isn't because yesterday you did this. It's because a year ago you were doing this. 5 years ago you were doing this. You didn't change and you kept walking that path. You kept veering off. And it can be the smallest of things, there's like that I don't know. I guess you would call it a thought experiment, but it's morally a truth where, like, I think a plane like can be off like, I don't know, such a small amount, and on a 6-hour flight it can end up like, in Canada instead of Mexico, if it's like, an inch, say, off, or like 1 degree. Yeah, I think degrees is a better measurement. Like 1 degree off, it'll end up in Mexico instead of Canada. And that's how our life is. It didn't just somehow end up in Mexico or end up in Canada. It's because it was walking that path. And you don't fly 5 hours on course and then end up after 10 minutes in Mexico. You're like, oh shit, we're off course, and then you correct. But sometimes, and that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that gives me a lot of peace of mind now. And maybe if you struggle with thinking that, oh, I'm gonna be on this wrong path, or I'm on this wrong path, maybe you are, and you should change. Because if you don't change, nothing changes. And you're insane if you think you're gonna get a different outcome than these people doing what they do. But if you live a life true to yourself, like I don't know what happens to people who, you know, work a job they don't really like for 4 years, save up money, travel the world, read philosophy religiously, write religiously, post YouTube videos a lot, and have hope and aspirations that are higher than any, or as any human being ever has. But we'll find out. And I can tell you it's not what these people around me have. And that's good, because there's nobody in my life who I look at and I say, that, that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to go. That's why I said it's so good in the beginning not to have one of those, because you don't get misguided. You don't say, damn, so and so's really, really close to what I want. Maybe I should listen to them. You say, I have no role models. I have nobody who is living the life that I want to live. And you say, great. It means I can do what it is that I want to do. I can trust myself. I can walk a path true to myself and become that which I am, to become who I am. There's a great Nietzsche quote where he says, what does your conscience say you should do? You should become who you are. That right there. And that's almost an answer. Maybe the only answers are trusting yourself. Maybe that's the one answer, and then the rest are questions. Yeah, I think that's true. Trusting ourselves, trusting our intuition, trusting our conscience, becoming who we are, and then the rest is questions. And the bigger the question, the better. Questions are the answer to life. And the answers are inside of us. They aren't out there anywhere. They aren't with anybody else. And if you don't have any role models, if you don't have anyone, that's good. You have no distractions. You have no one that you value their opinion of so highly that when they question your actions, you'll think so much about them. You'll be like, oh, should I really be doing this? Because you won't think that, because you say, what do I care what so-and-so thinks? They're, have no discipline. The things they do, the belief systems they have, the way they treat people, everything like about them, like it's honestly a good sign that they don't approve of what you're doing. It's a great sign. And that's how we need to view these things. Not that these people's opinions matter. I'll go to Seneca because he said it better than I could. Do nothing for the sake of others' opinions, and everything for the sake of your conscience. All the ancients knew, all the greats knew that the conscience, the still small voice, our intuition is what mattered. That thing is divine. And maybe it's the fool in me, but I believe we all have it. I believe if we all just trusted ourselves, if we all just were able to discern the God within from the ego, we would all be great. We would all be walking past true to ourselves. But the thing is that that's so hard. It's not easy. It's like the allegory of the cave with Plato. The person who first leaves the cave, it's not easy to first leave the cave and have your eyes hurt from the sun. It's not easy. But then after, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, it's so much harder to go back to the darkness. It's almost impossible to go back. It is impossible to go back to the darkness. It's impossible. And when you're in that position, you need to put yourself in other people's position and be like, oh, okay, it's not easy for them. Even though for you now, for me now, it's the only way I can live. It's all I can do. I have no other choice. Even if I wanted to return to ignorance, I couldn't. Ignorance is truly bliss, but once your bliss is shattered, there's nothing for you there other than depression, and everyone's ignorance becomes shattered. Kids have it, and young adults who are still kids have it. But if you're not a kid anymore, you can't walk around the darkness. You can act like you are, but when you go to bed at night, when you look in the mirror, and I know you're killing yourself inside. So just go and walk a path true to yourself. Ask the big questions. Realize that the questions are the answers. Understand the answers come from within. And the questions do too, but it's also amazing to read the greats and get the questions from the greats. It's foolish not to. And they help you think better. And we are our own best mentors. Yeah. I'm currently in Sri Lanka, if you care. As I said, I'm in like a abandoned part of this hostel, so can't really show you anything too good. But it's amazing here. I've been surfing every day, getting pretty good at surfing, and I think the next part of my journey is going to be a hike in the Himalayas for 30 days. Mansalau circuit, and Narfu circuit combined, if you care.